We've been talking about what Hindus believe, what Hinduism teaches, first of all, about authority. What are the sacred writings that help to determine Hindu beliefs? We looked at the Vedas, and then we looked at the Upanishads, and we looked at the epic poetry, and then at the Puranas briefly. But now we want to turn our attention to what Hinduism teaches concerning salvation. Now, salvation is a word that has some implications. It's probably more appropriate to the Middle Eastern religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In Hinduism, the need is for moksha. They wouldn't say salvation, they would say moksha, which means liberation from two things. It means liberation from karma and liberation from the cycle of reincarnation. In Hinduism, you have this idea of samsara. In the Western religions, history is going someplace. You have a past and a present and a future, but it's going someplace. Whereas in Hinduism, time is cyclical. It's not going in this kind of one direction. And because of that, you have this idea of reincarnation. Reincarnation is the idea that a person is going to be reborn through many lives, in some cases through almost an endless cycle of lives. And in what form you are reborn is determined by karma. The general notion of reincarnation and rebirth in Hinduism assumes that human beings have at one time or another existed as some sort of lower form, such as an animal or an insect or even a plant. Hinduism recognizes grades of human life from limited and painful to exceptionally pleasant and free. So, in some ways, it provides a philosophical framework that describes why things as they are. Do you remember in the Gospel of John that the disciples asked Jesus of the blind man, why was he born blind? Was it because of his sin or his parents' sin? Jesus said neither one, but in order that God's glory could be shown. Well, in Hinduism, they would have said, well, it was definitely his fault. If he was born blind, it's because he had bad karma resulting from what he had done wrong in the previous life. So it gives an explanation for why things are as they are, why poor people are poor, why some people are oppressed, why are there untouchables in the world. And then on the other hand, if you are born into one of the upper castes, if you're Brahmin, if you're Kshatriya, then you can say, well, that's because I lived such a good life previously. I deserve this. So one of the ideas within Hinduism is that you shouldn't interfere with someone else's karma, because you may cause them to have to go through another cycle. Maybe they didn't pay down or pay off their karma. In any case, you can be reincarnated in either direction. If you live a good life, you should move up in your next life. If you live a bad life, you should move down in life, because whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. It's this idea that you get exactly what you deserve. Karma is the moral law of cause and effect. And belief in karma is a belief that every action has an automatic moral consequence to it. So, moksha means being liberated from this endless cycle. When I say endless cycle, some of the Hindu scholars speculate that it'll be 100,000 years of reincarnations before you can achieve moksha. Others, 400,000 years. It's just speculated. No one really can say for sure. But in any case, karma's not thought of as being bad or good. It's like gravity. It's just a force like nature. Moksha, on the other hand, is the opportunity to get free of this endless cycle. And what stands in the way of that is Maya. It's the obstacle that prevents us from achieving this liberation, this moksha. Maya is usually translated illusion or ignorance. And it means that we're not seeing the world in the right way. We see the world as we think it is, but it's really an illusion. Now, that doesn't mean that the world itself, the physical world, doesn't exist. That's not what it's saying, but that our perceptions of the world and about the world are skewed in some form or fashion. One of the Upanishads advises, "Know therefore that nature is Maya, but that God is the ruler of Maya, and that all beings in our universe are parts of His infinite splendor." So again, we think of ourselves as being separate from the other people and the plants and the animals around us, whereas in one school of thought in Hinduism, to achieve moksha means to overcome this separation and to be absorbed within Brahma, to come to this place of ultimate reality, to overcome the illusion of Maya, and because of that to be released from karma and from the cycle of samsara and reincarnation. But Hinduism is diverse, right? So there is a disagreement within Hinduism about whether or not Brahman, the ultimate reality, what some people would see as ultimately being God, about whether that means that I'm reabsorbed. That point of view would be what I mentioned earlier, the drops in the ocean, or the waves in the ocean. The waves are a part of the ocean. You can pick out an individual wave, but it's never really completely differentiated from the ocean itself. The ocean's made up of all those waves. Another point of view, though, says, within Hinduism, says that it's more like there's a green parrot, and the green parrot hides among the green trees. And so you can't really see the separation, but there is a separation. So that Brahman is like ultimate reality, but we maintain our individuality. So there is this monistic idea that everything that you see is one, but there's the other point of view that's more dualistic, more like Christianity, that sees a separation between the creator and the creation. Well, one other thing that I should mention. is that these little letters at the end of the word sometimes make a big difference. Because in Hinduism, you got Brahman, the ultimate reality. You have Brahmin. The Brahmin are the priests. And the only difference here is in this one letter. In the old Aryan kind of religion that we talked about earlier, the Brahmin, the priests, could call upon the Brahminic power that was present in the sacrifice. And they had a kind of a priestly power because they knew the right words to chant. They knew the songs to sing. They knew how to set up the sacrifice. And because of that, they could draw on the power of the Brahman, and they were Brahmin. Later, in the Upanishads, the Brahman came to mean this greater ultimate reality. And then you also have, we're going to see in just a little bit, the god Brahma, with no N on the end of the word, Brahma. And Brahma is one of the Hindu Trimurti, one of the three great Hindu expressions of God. And we're going to turn to that in just a couple of moments now.